RAD Radio presents the RAD pROBcast.
My guest for the pROBcast is Gary, Dawn's husband.
Hey, what's going on, Rob?
Hi, Gary. And I actually had to bribe him with alcohol in order to do this because, you know, why else would we want to sit around and talk as friends? So we actually have a bunch of bourbons and whiskeys.
Nice.
And
I like
Scotches. By the way, do you care about the difference between
Not
bourbon?
really.
Yeah,
No.
I know there is one. Okay. So we have, we're going to start with Michter's, but this is the low end Michter's that I think this is your go-to daily Scotch.
That is my everyday Scotch.
Which me too. But we both discovered this on Billions.
Yeah.
Who did I buy it first or you?
You bought it first, actually. You saw that's what Axe was drinking on the show and said, I need to try that.
Yeah. And it and people remember we posted some pictures of probably the most hysterical night we've had in the last 5 years of you and I and our wives and another couple drinking way too much Scotch, ending with a night of Michter's.
Yeah.
Which for some reason you decided to add milk into your Michter's.
Yeah,
the good Michter's.
Yes.
Not this Michter's.
I have no recollection of that happening outside of the pictures.
You really don't remember it?
No, I do remember.
Do you remember why you thought pouring milk into them? Because I don't remember what. There are parts of the end of that night that I don't remember.
I don't even know how the milk got on the table in the first place. We were drinking whiskey.
Was somebody having coffee? Were the girls having coffee?
Maybe. And I thought maybe there was some that spilled on the table or something, and I ended up wiping it into the glass and then drinking it off the table.
Because all I remember is so like this first Michter, this is like what, $55 a bottle?
Yeah, about 55. Yeah,
and it's probably the best bang for the buck.
100%.
But the super duper Michters is and that's the one, of course, that Axe drinks on Billions, which is a show on Showtime with Paul Giamatti. That's just great. That's like $500.
Yeah.
And so after you did that, and we were all hammered. Well, the three guys were hammered. You were like, well, I can't waste it. And so you still drank it.
I think that's where I was. I'm not going to waste $500 Scotch. So I do notice, though, I haven't been invited back for the Good Michter since.
But see, you're here.
But now I'm here.
So, yeah. So a little start. So we start with what we're used to, and then we'll work our way through the rest of the Scotches. And we were actually going to do this with cigars as well and do it out on the patio. But it is literally, and I don't think I'm exaggerating here, 1 billion degrees right now.
That's exactly what it said on my truck when I was driving up to the house. It said 1 billion degrees.
That's amazing that you got here.
Yeah.
That your tires didn't melt. But
they're good years, so.
Well, okay, there's our first plug of the day. But that's the last thing I want in my mouth. Well, second or third to last thing that I want in my mouth when it's 1 billion degrees is a cigar. So we'll do this again in the fall. Or whatever.
All right, sounds good.
First up, this is our regular. And by the way, this isn't a podcast about Scotch, although we'll be happy to chime in about. That's just so good.
It just absolutely it is. The flavor is amazing. It's smooth.
How often do you drink? Because I drink every day.
It's a lot less than I used to. It's probably
a lot less.
Yeah.
I thought it had increased since the pandemic.
No, it should have, but for whatever reason, it didn't.
So, what would your guess be? Once a week?
On the high end, once a week, yeah.
On the high end, once a week.
Yeah.
And is that like a Friday, Saturday night thing with the wife, or?
It's actually just whatever day of the week it feels like I really need to have a drink.
And is it usually Scotch these days?
It is, yeah. It's basically all I have. We have some Tahoe Blue in the house as well, but for the most part, I go to the Scotch.
That's the second plug. Although at least Tahoe Blue is an actual sponsor of the show. All right, so speaking of the wife. Let's start with this one. How do you feel about the dum-dum thing?
It doesn't bother me at all.
It never bothered you?
Never. Not even once.
Because that's 20 years, right?
It is, yeah.
And it doesn't come up as much now.
No.
But it used to come up a lot. It still comes up now.
Yeah.
And it does seem to legitimately still bother Dawn.
Yeah, I don't know that
Not
it bothers
as much.
her. I don't know that it bothers as much. I think she does some overacting for the show for the entertainment purposes. But yeah, no, it does. She doesn't like it still when you call me that. But
is it because it spills over into real life, or at least it used to at times? I know there were occasions where people would yell out "dum dum."
Yeah, maybe.
Most of them are being nice, I think. But.
Yeah, but even then, when people would say it in public, she was always really nice to everybody still, no matter what. And then, and I just don't know that. I honestly don't know. how much it bothered her. I think it did because she doesn't like anybody calling me dumb, for that matter. And for me, the way I look at it is, you know, if you're my friend and you're not insulting me, then there's something wrong with our friendship. So,
so that's actually a perfect lead into the other obvious question, which is being the spouse of somebody that's on the show. Because you have to, well, you don't have to listen, but you do. And a lot of people listening know the etymology of, we go back actually further than you and Dawn do.
Yeah.
That you were listening to my attempt at a show in Reno back, what, do you remember 94?
97.
97?
So
Okay.
I moved to Reno in Memorial Day weekend of 1997 and almost instantly found the show.
And then started coming to events.
Started coming to some of the, when you guys would do the what is it called when you're on site at somebody's location?
Remotes?
The remotes, yeah. Whiskey's kicking already.
Wow. Well, you have stopped drinking a lot.
So yeah, no, we would go to the remotes, and I mean,
you and your buddy Tony usually.
Yeah, with my buddy Tony, and you know, and then that's ended up where I first met Dawn as well, because she would be working a lot of the remotes with you guys, but yeah, we would drink beer after some of the remotes and just hang out a little bit. And
sometimes Monday Night Football, you'd come out at what was that, Waldorf's?
The Little Wall.
Little Wall.
Yeah,
That's what it is. Yeah. God, is that still there?
It's still there. Actually,
the Little Wall's still there.
I have a friend who just recently graduated from UNR. His daughter did, and I was asking her about that stuff, and she said that the Little Wall is still there, still happening, but they're really changing a lot of the area around the campus to improve it. But some of the legendary places are still there like that.
It's amazing that I've been out of Reno since '99. And I mean, even when we go back and visit, I don't get enough time to really get a feel for everything that's changed. When we drove back from Vegas, and I texted you about this, it's stunning to see like what east of Sparks has become. Yeah. But even a lot of just what, you know, because a lot of the places you and I used to hang out are gone. Scruples is long gone. Our Reno listeners are going to be like, Jesus Christ, guys, why don't you just come visit for a while? What is that place? God, Bullies.
Bullies still has.
They were like 5 locations last time.
I don't know how many they still have, but I know that the one in Northwest Reno is still open.
That's my original haunt.
And then I think the one in Sparks, or just off of Sparks, it's North McCarran and Prater, somewhere in that area. I think that one is still open. And then I don't know how many of the other locations are still open, but yeah, it's still hanging in there.
It's amazing. The town changes so much. And yet it's actually like Sacramento. It changes so much, and yet it doesn't.
Yeah.
But to my question, what's it like for you? Because I know for Christina, and she's talked about this openly, it's hard sometimes for her to deal with the flack, for lack of a better word, that we take on the air as personalities. And God knows Dawn has been a punching bag at various times over the years by both members of the show and the audience. And I mean, she's always been amazing at it, but what's that like?
So I have to separate the show from personal life, right? On the show, you guys have to entertain people. And a lot of times that's going to be like you're picking on your sister, insulting her, et cetera, whatever. And so, you know, it doesn't bother me because I know for a fact that you and her off the air are basically like a brother and sister, that you really care about each other. You're not going to insult her off the air. You're not going to be mean to her that way off the air. With regards to the listeners insulting her is a little bit different. It doesn't bother me when they call into the show and do it. I don't think I've ever ran into it with people doing it out in public. Everybody has always been really nice to us. But when it happens on air, to me, I kind of shrug my shoulders and go, okay, these are people that want to have fun. They're paying the bills for us. And without them, you know, the show wouldn't be happening as well. And so for me, I try and keep it separated and make sure that I know that this is for entertainment. This is our personal life. And, you know, I don't want to say that it doesn't bother me, but at the same time, I have to keep reminding myself that, okay, this is just for fun. And it's never gotten to a point to where it's crossed the line so bad that I've felt like I've ever had to step in and go, okay, hey, you probably should be having a conversation with Rob about this, or, you know, this is really not good for you or for the show, in my own opinion. But
so how much do you still listen?
I try and listen every day. I probably get probably get an hour to 2 hours every day in between conference calls and meetings and stuff. So
yeah, the zoo is very busy.
it is.
Are there times though where you're listening and you say, like, let's use me in particular, you go, come on, Rob, where you can just tell that I'm like maybe over the top picking on her, and you go, dude, that's a little much. Because I know you'd never text me and tell me, because you would back away and go, it's like you said, it's part of what we do.
Honestly, no, it really hasn't.
Well, sometimes I do. Sometimes I think to myself, okay, I didn't need to go that far.
Yeah, and you're feeling the mood in the room as well, right? When I'm listening on the other side, I can't feel or get the feel of that tension if there is any in the room at that moment.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't, to me, I don't think it's ever come close to that line of, come on, Rob, what are you doing, right?
Okay.
I think more so it comes down to sometimes if your facts are wrong on something.
Whoa.
And
my facts? My facts? Oh, like there's gravity on the moon. Okay, thanks for texting me, by the way, in the middle of the pressure cooker, that there's gravity on the moon, Gary. I screwed that up. By the way, I should point out, I think it's your shot.
Oh, is it?
On pool. Yeah. Which, I mean, there's no way to avoid this topic. In fact, you know what? Yeah, you have to take your shot so I can do a visual demonstration for those of us that are actually watching us on the pROBcast. Because this pool game, so we've been playing for what, 2 years?
I think it's actually a little over 2 years, yeah.
Well, I know it's got to be, it has to be 2 years because we were still playing pool and we were still bowling, which was pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
And it was way before everything got shut down in March.
Go ahead, sorry.
What?
So I was going to say, okay, so we officially started keeping score on April 18th of 2019. So it has been,
wow.
That's when we officially started keeping score. And we were playing before that without actually making up our own scoring rules.
And
so.
you had found this game by yourself,
yeah,
originally.
Yeah.
It's an app called Game Pigeon. And then you brought it up to me, and by the way, I'm first to admit Gary's much better at this than I am still. But in the beginning, it was like ruthless. I was like, you ringer, you've been playing this for months, and now you wrote me in, and I couldn't do anything. So here, I'm going to do this just to annoy the shit out of producer Nick, who edits our videos, because he's going to be like, oh my God. In fact, he'll cut this. He'll be like, I'm not putting that in. That is terrible. That violates all of the video integrity of everything. But for people that are watching, I'll actually show them how this works.
Well, while you're doing that, I'm going to tell you a very fascinating and interesting story that every listener is going to want to hear.
Oh. See, so you line up your shot here.
So Rob's lining up his shot here. No, there's no real fascinating or interesting story. So I was just trying to make it so Nick couldn't edit it out.
I missed.
That's kind of hard to do it that way. You're not even looking at,
Although that's not much different than my usual quality of shot, to be honest. So that's how the game works. But yeah, so you mentioned we keep score. No, we really do.
Yeah.
And for some reason, we randomly decided on basically mini tournaments until somebody gets to 400 points, and our scoring system is very contrived. And then we start over. But we've never kept track of I know you've won 95% of our tournaments.
Yeah.
Although we've had a few good ones, get right down to 399 to 398 or whatever. And we literally, so our scoring system is you get a point for winning.
Yep. 1 point for each win in a row.
And then a point for every ball of the opponent's that's left.
Any ball left. It would only be opponent's balls left on the table, except when you scratch or knock the if you knock the 8 ball in and lose, then you count every ball that's left on the table except for the cue ball.
Which that's brutal. Which I'm a pro.
Yeah.
By the way, at hitting the 8 ball in and losing and leaving a ton of balls on the table.
And on top of that, though, there's also an additional 1 point bonus for that win as well. So if instead of getting just 1 point, you get 2 points for that win.
And then what's the bonus for 5 in a row?
So for winning 5 games in a row, you get 10 points.
You get the 5. You
get 5 and a bonus 5.
Yeah. Okay.
And then if you win 15 or 10 in a row, then you get 5 and you get 10 plus another bonus 5. So every 5 games you win in a row, you get that plus the additional 5 point bonus.
I think you have once. Has either one of us won 10 in a row?
I think I got to 12 in a row once.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah.
Because I know I got to 9 and then I blew it. But no, this is what we do, and so the way it works is it's through a text.
Yep.
You take your shot, and or your shots, and then it sends the text, and then the other person can choose to text back depending on what they're doing. Sometimes we go hours without texting each other, and sometimes we'll spend 20 minutes going back and forth, And this has been discussed on the air. This is a very contentious topic with our wives.
It is.
And it seems to have settled down a lot a bit, although...
Look at that. I just knocked the 8-ball in with a whole bunch of balls on the table. That sucks.
You knocked it in the bad way.
Yes.
You lost.
Yes.
Well, that's a shame.
Yeah, you might show that to the camera if you want.
I really feel horrible about that. Yeah, I can show the camera how you're... So that's the cool thing is you can also watch what your opponent did when you get it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11... God, that's 11 balls left on the table. That's like 13 in. That's your second win in a row for you. So that was a 15-point game.
Gary keeps score, in case you can't tell. He's the scorekeeper. So when we started this, it didn't seem to be an issue, although I think we got more into it. And then at some point, and we didn't even both know that we were experiencing this until, I don't know if it was it when it came up on the air, where we found out, both our wives are doing this, where they were really annoyed at us. And I'm not claiming we're not somewhat guilty. Like, I'm not saying they're completely wrong, just mostly. Yeah. That we were allowing the game to maybe distract us from time that we were supposed to be spending with them.
Yes, exactly.
So,
yes.
Like, I think the example we've used on the air, you sit down to watch a show as a couple, and it's a show, it's a couple show. It's not something like my wife will watch The Housewives, and I couldn't care less, but I'll watch with her. But that's not an us show. And she knows if you text me, I'm going to play pool during The Housewives. But if it's a show that we watch, and the phone goes off, and you reach over on the sofa, and you grab it, and you're playing, I can understand why that might bother them.
Sure.
Is that a good example?
I think that's a great example, because that's exactly how it happens in our house as well.
That, and I know they are not a fan of the fact that... I don't think we can get arrested for saying this, that you and I have occasionally played while we're driving.
Yeah.
And I know that they're not fans of that. But,
No.
We're still here. I know that I think my wife's favorite example is that I'll play with you while I'm driving to Dogwoods Resort, which is one of the funnest roads to drive. And to make it more fun, you add in playing pool.
Sure, yeah.
But I think we found as happy a medium as we're going to get with them.
I think so, yeah.
I still get the occasional sigh.
Yeah.
The occasional, okay. So here's a great example. You'll be watching a show, a together show, and there's a legitimate reason to pause it. Like, we need to make another drink. She needs to go to the bathroom. She comes back. And we're not watching yet because I'm taking my shots. And it's like, and it's like, hey, you called the timeout. You're the one that had to do woman things. So what's wrong with that? All right, hold on. Next scotch. All right, so let's go to. So we start with the Michter's for a reason. Oh, I'm saving that. Oh, this one. You got to try this one. So a lot of Scotch drinkers know Macallan. I'm sorry, the Macallan. I love anything in sherry seasoned oak casks. This is what they call their classic cut.
Okay.
And it's a limited 2019 edition. I found this by accident, and I liked it enough to say I need to make sure that Gary tries this.
Yeah.
So that's the second one we'll be trying today.
Okay.
So speaking of all of this, I noticed you walked into the house. By the way, I should have mentioned we're in Williams Manor. We're at the new dining room table from Pottery World, which you even commented on how nice it is.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous table.
But you're many weeks removed from a broken ankle. Not a broken ankle, a near broken ankle.
Yeah.
So you texted me one morning. It was a Saturday morning, right? And you were supposed to be golfing with a friend for his birthday.
Yep.
And I think we were up early, like we often are, 3 or 4 in the morning. And you went from, I hurt my ankle, I twisted my ankle, it's swollen, and eventually you wound up at
urgent care, yeah.
Rapid urgent care, whatever the hell it is. What the hell did you do?
Basically, I walking down the stairs with bare feet, and we have carpet on our stairs. This is at about 3:30 in the morning during Hank's normal feeding time.
Hank's your dog,
And,
which is
yeah,
ironic
Hank's.
because Maestro, my German Shepherd, is currently molesting your armpit.
And as I'm walking down the stairs, on the second to last step, I hit the edge of the step right with the middle of my foot, and it slipped onto the bottom step, rolled over to the inside, and then I went down forward. It went behind me. I hit the stairs with my back. Ooh. And then, but being the man that I like to claim I am, I finished feeding Hank and waited until I heard Dawn was awake before I bothered her.
Were you limping immediately?
Oh yeah, 100%. I could barely stand back up after I fell.
So I didn't know or remember that you also slammed your back, which you already have back issues.
Yeah, but what's funny is I landed perfectly flat on the stairs, so it hit in
just
3
laid
different
down?
spots. Yeah, and so it wasn't like all one big blow in a certain spot to the back. It was almost like across the back in 3 different areas, and so it didn't hurt as bad as the ankle did for sure.
So that's almost the exact way that Christina also didn't break her ankle prior to you. And that we were told when Christina finally got diagnosed that it's not broken, but it's whatever it is, hairline fracture, close to that. You're going to wish it was broken. And she, to this day, because that was Easter 3 years ago.
Oh gosh.
To this day, she will occasionally have issues. Like
Oh, wow.
like if we or she dances too much.
Okay.
Especially in heels, right? Anything that puts pressure on it. And so when you texted me that you had basically the same same diagnosis?
Yeah, very close. Yeah.
I remember texting you, I don't want to be that guy, but it would have been better if you would have broken it.
Yeah.
Because I guess it's harder to heal. And so you might have this issue now lingering moving forward. Have you noticed? So you're healed. Are you healed?
No. It's so I don't have a brace on, but if you were to look at my ankle right now, it's still very swollen.
How many weeks for the day we're recording this? How many weeks has it been?
I think that would have been June 5th. So we're basically on 4.5 weeks.
Okay.
That it's been since it happened. So
that's still young.
Yeah. I'm giving it to the 6-week mark, and I mean I'm icing it still every day. Still dunking it in the ice chest with ice and
every day.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
for
Trying to do it for. Well, I do it until my foot goes numb, and then I pull it out. Right now, it's about 4 to 5 minutes with the amount of ice that I'm using.
I
So
love Dawn's reaction to you using the ice chest, which again, we're Gen Xers. That's just how we were raised, man.
Right.
You just
Yeah.
submerge your foot in a big old ice chest of ice.
exactly, yeah. Don't need fancy ice packs or anything.
Oh, the things you wrap around you with the Velcro. Yeah, that's neat. We
Yeah.
don't need them. Wow. So I'm trying to. This is a very selfish question because I'm trying to figure out when we're going to golf again.
I know. So I was thinking about that as I was driving up here today. So I'm walking better on it. I do feel a little bit of pain still just on the outside of the ankle bone,
Which ankle is it?
the right ankle. So it's my finishing leg up front.
So I was going to use that as an excuse.
Yeah.
But that's the problem is both feet are so important in golf with weight.
And so this coming week, or even probably this weekend, I'm going to pull a golf club out and try and swing it and see how much I can actually handle right now, just so I can even get back on the course, because I really miss it as well. And
Although, I mean, this particular weekend that we're recording this, we wouldn't have. Well, we might have played because we play at the crack of dawn, no pun intended. But it's so hot and it can be so miserable. In fact, I canceled a golf round with some radvertisers a couple Fridays ago, because it was also 108 that day. But Danny from Tech to You, Circles, Fire Up, and everything else, he's played with us a few times, and he texted me the other day, and he said that we've spoiled him now. That because he said, I can't, and I guess it'd been a while since Danny had golfed much, but he got out with us, and then he's tried to go out with other people, and they don't play the way we do, which is very simple. It's what's called ready golf. Hit your ball, go to your ball, hit your ball. You don't need, as a foursome, you don't all need to drive to each other's shot and sit there and analyze it and talk about it and tell jokes. Just everybody go to your ball and hit.
Yep.
And we play, if nobody's around us, 3.5 hours is normal, if not long, for us as a foursome, right?
Yeah, usually, yeah.
So, that's why we try to get the first tee time out every morning, because if you have anybody in front of you, For some reason, you assholes think that 4.5 hours is the right time for a round of golf.
Yeah, it's definitely not acceptable.
I remember the couple times we've been fortunate enough to play Pebble Beach, we made sure to get the first time out.
Yeah.
Just because Pebble, I don't know if they're still doing it, but Pebble used to actually like be proud of like branding their markers with 4.5 hours.
4:15, yeah.
4:15, is that what it was? It's like, and we were like, and I remember the starter when we played said something like, "You're setting the pace," and we're like, "Don't worry about us. We'll have 3 holes behind us that are clear when we're done," because that's just how you should play golf. And I've always used the joke on the air that I actually enjoy my life. I enjoy my wife. I want to get to the next thing, but I don't know what it is. What is it? Because we both get stuck playing with people that take too long. Do you know what it is?
I honestly, you know what's so sad about it is that there's no money on the line. You're not playing to get into a tournament. You're not playing for anything but your own self-enjoyment, and you still sit there and take 5 practice swings, double check your alignment, then walk up to the ball again, back away, and it's just like, what are you doing here? Just get up to the ball and hit the ball. I mean, if you're practicing, go to the driving range.
And especially at almost all of our levels, when you're out on the course, you already know if you're in the zone or not. And we also both, all of us, because we have a group of like less than 8 that we'll rotate through, that we'll play with, we all understand that we're not going to use being on the course as our range time. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, if I don't got it today, then I'm probably going to hit it even quicker.
Yeah.
I'm not, until we get to that point where we're so frustrated, where usually one of us will pull the other aside and go, hey, try this, when you can just see the other guy's not having fun.
Yeah.
Which you actually did for me a few rounds ago.
Yeah. Yeah, just before the ankle sprain.
Yeah, and I was, standing too far away from the ball. And the minute you said something, it took me, I think, a hole to figure out, oh, here I am, and the game turned around. Mm-hmm. Because I was so frustrated. That game is so frustrating. But it's almost as frustrating as not playing. So hopefully a few weeks from now, you'll be fine.
I really hope so, too.
Which, we'll jump to our other game.
Before we do that real quick, just so the listeners know that we don't just rush to every ball and hit every shot. There are certain situations where we take our time, whether it's if we're in the woods and you got to figure out what your shot's going to be to get out of there, if you're in a sand trap, tough lies, those are exceptions. But when your ball's in the fairway or the first cut of the grass, just get up there and hit the ball.
No, that's a great point, because I remember, and I don't know if you were with me, and this is years ago, somewhere somebody made a comment, and I think it was because we had finished so quickly. Like, we teed off at 6 and we were done before 9. Yeah. And they made a comment, and Scout is chiming in, no apparent reason in the background. Scout about, what do you guys run to every shot and then hit it? And we were like, no, not at all, not even close. In fact, we really enjoy playing golf.
Yeah.
But it's exactly that. When any one of us, that's the exception. When any one of us is in the woods, which happens a lot, all of us go look. Mm-hmm. And help the person find their ball, but we don't take 5 minutes, which is the rule, right?
Yeah, we don't even take the full 5 minutes. If we can't find it, we can't find it. Once again, we're not playing for any money. There's no reason to take a full 5 minutes to look for your lost golf ball. Just take a drop, and move on.
And even and we haven't done this in years, even when we do play for money, because we have a little game that we'll play with stuffed animals, believe it or not, as grown men. It's, first of all, it's not a lot of money. Look, if you're golfing, $1 is not a lot of money. I mean, what's the worst you can lose in our little animal game? $10?
I think it's $1 a hole, so I think it's $18 that you can lose.
Okay. Was it $1 a hole? I thought it was the number of animals at the end. Either way.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. I forgot about that.
Because you pay each guy. But either way, it's like, so if you had all the animals, okay, so if you had all the animals, there's 8 animals?
Yeah, I think it was, $24
so
is
then
the most you could
$24
lose,
is the, okay, well, your round costs 2 or 3 times that.
Yeah.
And even then, we wouldn't take the full 5 minutes.
No.
It'd be like, dude, take the gorilla. That's the stuffed animal for losing your ball in the woods. And it's probably racist too. But either way, we would never do that.
No.
It's just not that important. So I don't get it. So the other game I was going to jump to is bowling.
Yeah.
Which we've been bowling together for years. When was the last time you threw a bowling ball?
The last week we were allowed to bowl before COVID.
So March of 2020.
Yep.
Which was going to change until you hurt your ankle.
Yeah. I was supposed to bowl nationals. I say nationals because it's an amateur tournament, and everybody, it's been going on for 100+ years now, and so.
And these are with other friends. These are with Texas.
Yeah, these are some guys from Texas that I actually got into bowling nationals with when I was living in Austin, and so we were supposed to go to Vegas and had my hotel booked, everything, and then the weekend before we were supposed to bowl nationals, I sprained my ankle, so I had to back out and cancel my trip and just forfeit my spot. I think nationals is like $250 now for all the different events and stuff, and so basically just forfeit the money so somebody else can take my spot and use it. And
so for people listening, what's the generically not boring explanation of what nationals are? Literally everyone from all over the nation shows up and bowls?
Yeah, so anybody who's a part of the USBC, so the Bowling Congress, so when you bowl in a league, if it's sanctioned, you become a member, you have to pay a membership fee. So anybody who has an established average that can be verified by the USBC, and I believe actually they're letting the pros bowl now as well. So I don't know if they, so I don't know if there's a limit on what they get. So anyways, so it's a scratch amateur tournament, and you see a lot of people that average 215 that'll go out there and shoot 160s and 170s because it is such a difficult shot that they put out. They try and level set the game for the guy that averages 140 by making the shot that much tougher.
And the bonus is you can actually win money.
Yeah.
I've bowled twice in nationals, and both times was at the Reno Stadium, and that shot is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And if you don't bowl for competitive reasons, people don't understand when we talk about the shot.
Yeah.
As you know, from trying to teach anyone how to bowl, you start with the basics of how many steps you take, and you aim for the arrows, not the pins and all that. Once you get way beyond that and you start to learn about the oil on the lanes, and you start talking with other bowlers about not only the oil but how far down, lanes are 60 feet, how far down are they sent? The times I have bowled nationals and bowled at the stadium, that is the worst, hardest reminder of I am not anywhere near a great bowler.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's so humbling.
I
think I bowled 120 or something there.
Yeah. For me,
which I'm sorry, we should just point out we're both probably 210,
yeah,
210 average bowlers. Yeah.
I'd say that. I mean, because we don't practice at all ever.
No.
We bowl 3 games a week when we do.
Which our teammates over the years have always pointed out. If you guys ever practice, you might be 220 bowlers. Like, I don't have time.
Yeah. Is it really worth an extra 10 pins in the average? No.
Not really.
Not at this point.
No. But yeah, those competitive stadium shots are awful.
It is, and it's usually if it's they used to move it across the country every year. You'd bowl East Coast and then West Coast, and the last few years it's been bouncing between Reno and Las Vegas. They've got a really good place in Vegas at one of the casinos down there that has a massive bowling center where they're holding it down there now. But like when we went to Syracuse and bowled in Syracuse a couple of years ago, they actually set the bowling center up in the convention center. And so you have like a 65 lane, 66 lane bowling setup inside the convention center. But
it was a makeshift bowling center?
Yeah, they basically, just like they, instead of the...
Like plopping a hockey rink into the middle of Lake Tahoe?
100%, that's all it is. And they actually, there's actually videos out there of them changing a convention center into a bowling stadium to set it up. And yeah, has everything that they would have at the Reno Bowling Center, and it's actually really, really kind of cool when you're, as a bowler, kind of cool, I guess. But
yeah, which I don't know how interesting any of this is to anybody, but don't care. How's this Macallan?
This is amazing. Right? I really like this. Yeah. That's another easy drinking Scotch there for sure.
When you really finally get into Scotches, it's kind of like wines. In the beginning, you have no idea what you're doing, and then eventually you try to find exactly that smooth.
Yep.
That whole thing that you see on every sitcom where you take a drink of Scotch and you go, oh, you make a face, right, and burn. That's a bad Scotch.
Yeah.
That's not, or or you've had such a horrible day that you don't care, and you actually want it to hurt a little. And depending if you're from our generation, you're from that Ben Gay idea of if it burns, it's working.
Yeah.
But other than that, that's not how it's supposed to work.
No.
And you gravitate towards these smooth ones. So let's see the next one. Oh, this one. So this, I don't know if we had this on the night of. I know we had one of these. There's this place out of Scotland that you can only get it shipped from Scotland. They don't sell it in the United States. It's called Blair Athol, which if you're drunk enough, you can turn that into a whole asshole joke. Yeah. And I know we had one of these, but they have a bunch of different ones. This is their director's cut. It's aged 16 years, and our third friend who was at that drunken night is actually the one that turned me on to this whole brand.
Yeah, I don't remember this one. I would have remembered.
You don't remember half the night, Gary.
That's fair.
Okay. So this is next, and we'll see how this compares. And just like with wines, so with wine tastings, you would start with the lighter, like if you're going to do reds, you would start with the lighter reds and work your way up. You'd go from a Merlot to a blend to a big Cabernet, for example. And so that's what I'm trying to do with these whiskeys is we started with our basic daily Michters, and then we go to a very nice Macallan, and then this Blair Athol Director's Cut should be a little deeper in flavor, although it's lighter in color. And then we really get to the big boys. And there's this new one that I'm actually super excited for you to try, which I texted you. I think the new one is the one that I mostly bribed you with.
Yeah.
Because this is my new go-to holy shit. And it's $180.
Okay.
But it's becoming my new holy shit almost daily.
Oh, wow.
If I was drinking, it's still not. The Michters is still the daily, but man, it's like, All right, back to bowling and golf.
Yeah.
Because we've talked about it on the air a little bit. You're a big guy. What are you, 6'4"?
6'2".
6'2". And you're wide. You're statured. You can be scary. You can be intimidating. Now, I've literally seen you throw your bowling ball in the garbage and almost pick up, but literally tip over a cement bench at a golf course. And that bothers my dogs, apparently, in the background. Hey! Oh, this is great. This is just so professional. Maestro. Maestro! This is what Nick won't cut, by the way. This is what Nick will leave in. Oh, that's great. That's just so real. That's so real. That whole thing with the cell phone and the pool game, that was dumb. But the dog's barking. People love that. So, but you have this, it's not just an image on the air that we've cultivated, but people that know you as like a gentle giant. You're a very nice guy. I've said on the air many times, you're one of the 2 or 3 nicest people I know, and that's not just bullshit. You'll drop anything for anyone that you care about.
Yep.
And you don't get mad very often, but when you get mad, you get mad. And I don't even think have I ever really seen you pissed?
I don't think so.
I mean, I've seen you bowling pissed.
Yeah.
You've seen that.
Yeah.
Me bowling pissed is not me pissed.
No.
So you picked up your ball, you threw it in the garbage. Fine, but what's it take to get you pissed? And how often does it really happen?
Doesn't happen very often. I've basically learned to control it. So in my early 20s, I definitely had some anger issues. Not where I would attack people, but...
Walls?
Yeah, walls. Just
Those were my favorites in my early 20s.
Yeah.
My first house took a beating.
Most of it was my own self-punishment in my anger was at myself more so than other people. Mm-hmm. I have a pretty high tolerance for what I can take from people. It would probably take the threat of physical violence or somebody really threatening even to hurt Dawn or one of a family member or a friend, right? That's when I'm gonna step in. And even then, I'm still going to try and calm the situation down first before I get overly pissed off. But
I like the story though that she's told a few times on the air of when, and you're gonna have to help me with it. Was it a traffic situation where she was out of the car and you knew it was a dangerous situation and you were mad at you were worried about her safety, and you got mad at her, but you were worried about her.
Yeah.
And to me, that rang true. Is that what it was? Was she like, she just shouldn't have been out of the car? Or?
Yeah, and that was actually, honestly, that was more defensive in my voice, is just the seriousness of the situation. So that wasn't even me being pissed off at her getting out of the car. I mean, I think at the end of the day, if I look back at it, most people would probably, I reacted out of anger because she shouldn't have gotten out of the car, because we're literally on a 2-lane highway that's got an 85 mile an hour speed limit, and there's a car in the fast lane that is just dead stop with no lights on whatsoever. And we come right up onto that car, and I barely stopped and missed him and turned on my flashers so that I could at least make sure. But there's people that are just flying by us on the right-hand side, and she's in the passenger side of the car, and she got out with traffic passing her on her right-hand side.
But you're out of the car too.
I was already out of the car, but I was more protected on the inside because of the shoulder.
So this is that toxic masculinity thing that you and I have.
100%.
Where when we say she shouldn't have gotten out of the car, that's us saying we're doing our job of protecting you. Yes, this is the one of the few times we get to say stay.
Yeah, right. It's like stay where you're safest, which would have been in the car. And basically, because I was going up to check on the people in the car, make sure they were okay. And
whereas Dawn's probably concerned about both you and the people, knowing her.
She was absolutely. She got out of the car out of the same reason I did.
Right.
Because she is that type of person that will go out and want to help anybody at the same time.
But that's not okay.
And there's certain situations when you have to think about your situation, right? It's, when you're the triage person, you can't put yourself in a dangerous situation. You've got to make sure that you're in a safe spot so that you don't get hurt, because now somebody's going to have to come and triage you as well. And it's like, just stay where you're at. We'll be fine. But yeah, that was probably a very, very stern, that wasn't angry by any means, but it was very stern in what I was saying to her. That was
concern.
It was 100% out of concern.
No, I can relate to that. But Christine and I were leaving the cigar club, which you've been to, which is down in Midtown, late at night, midnight, 1 a.m. And as we're heading to our car, there are 2 groups of 4 people each, and there's a fight going on in the middle of the street.
Oh, good.
And Christina, like, instinctively wants to go break up the fight. And I'm like, no, like, and I'm getting more and more aggressive with my words. And then I had to literally corral her physically and go, babe, we can't get in the middle of this. These are the kind of things where you get in the middle. You don't know if both sides turn on you. We're both, of course, dressed up, and we're carrying a bag with, I don't know what, scotch or wine that we'd been consuming. And she was having none of it. She's like, babe, we can't let this guy get beat up. Actually, we can. Ultimately, thank God, it turned out the guy got away. We were able to ask if they were okay. But those situations, it's like I was like feeling pissed off in the moment, like, listen to me. But it was entirely out of concern.
Yeah.
It's like, don't do this. And if anybody's going to do it, I'm going to do it. You're going to go to the car, which she would never let happen. No. So that can be so frustrating.
Sure, and with her, with all the military training that she's had as well, that's probably just her natural reaction now also, just to want to go into battle and
absolutely
try and help somebody, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, it is. It's tough because you're right. You want to go and help people, but you also have to think about the consequences for yourself and your family from a longer term perspective, because you're right. You don't know what's going to happen. You could have both, like you said, both groups could turn on you. You don't know if it's a family that's just infighting right now. Somebody could have a knife or a gun, and there's too many things right now where it feels like people are willing to amp it up to that next level when you try and help out.
And it's not situational anymore, but in both your example and my example, whether you're on the side of the road or you're in midtown of a semi or major city, you don't get to use the excuse of, oh, well, you're in Midtown at 1 a.m. Hey, this stuff's happening everywhere now.
It is.
And all the time. And seemingly everyone is, if not armed, angry.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of the dog's barking the microphones pick up, but
hopefully a lot of it, because it's pretty entertaining at this point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's very entertaining. It's great. I'm guessing I'm getting an Amazon delivery at this point. Good dogs. Oh, hi, Scout. I might have to sign for something.
Oh, boy.
Oh, I hope I need my ID,
All right.
which is downstairs. So, yes, we had some type of alcohol delivery, which I love this. I've gotten to the point now in my life where delivery drivers, they don't even ask for ID. They just, first of all, they just say, will you say that you're over 21? I'm like, yeah. And they ask the first name. That's all he did. And then he left. I don't know what it is. I think it's a wine club or something. So I have to go get that after we're done with this. Okay, so where were we?
We were
anger, women.
talking about,
Okay.
Yeah.
Protecting. So, we have not heard your version of how you reacted to Queenie. So, Gary is Dawn's husband, and Queenie, who's on the show, is Dawn's niece, and therefore Gary's niece, but at one point was known as the nephew. And Dawn and Queenie have been very honest about the way that transpired with the whole process of how Dawn reacted, and I've actually loved seeing Dawn grow in her ability and willingness to talk about how resistant she was in the beginning, and said, "No, you're just gay," quote quote. So because Queenie is a trans female, meaning transitioning from male to female, and so in the beginning, and Dawn's told the story, there was a haircut incident of, I'm going to go get your haircut like a boy and make you be a gay boy kind of thing. And I'm obviously very much paraphrasing and being insensitive, intentionally just cut through this, but we've never heard, what was it like? Because you, Queenie, as her former self, was at your wedding.
Yeah.
That was, I think, the only time I met her, when she wasn't her. So you've known her whole life? Almost?
Pretty right? Close, yeah.
What was that like for you?
So the first time that she came to the house, as in trying to say that she was transgender back in, I don't even remember how many years ago, very similar to Dawn. I was not uninformed, but not ignorant either. I'm not sure what the right word is, but it was so new that I didn't know enough about what was happening. And it was something that I'd never really taught myself to understand either. And so I basically went through almost the exact same thing that Dawn did when Queenie came to visit us the first time. It was very difficult. It's like, okay, no, you're not a girl, you're a boy. And
well, and we should remind people, for longtime listeners, I mean, again, for people of our generation, this whole thing has been difficult.
Yeah.
Which that's our problem. But there was a long time where we were joking about Dawn's, at that point, nephew, like, being gay, because at that point they were showing these signs of being very feminine or whatever, and it was almost like, that's okay.
Yeah.
But fine, whatever. It's the 2000s. But what? You're not even actually the biological thing that you are. I mean, I know it was so difficult for all of us on different levels to just even understand the transgender issue.
100%.
But you had to deal with it more personally than anybody that I know.
Yeah. And, and I, at that time, I wasn't choosing to understand it. It wasn't something that I was wide open to, right? I appreciate change more so than most people do. I'm open for change. I think change means you're growing in life, et cetera, or whatever. But with this situation, it was not situation, but with what was happening at that time, it was just something that was not everyday life for us back then, at least as far as understanding it and being around people that were transgender, and even just having all the information regarding that. And so I at that time, I just really had no understanding of it. And so it was more out of just ignorant non-acceptance that I struggled at first. And so when Queenie came to live with us this time around, though, I was in a different spot.
And was she invited to live with you out of like desperation, or how did that happen?
So she was living in Indiana at the time with her sister, and she was in a bad spot in her life where she was just, I don't want to say she was going down some tough roads, but drinking very heavily all the time, not making really good decisions for her own life. And Dawn could see that she needed to get out of there. And so we offered her to come and stay with us. We had no expectations of how long it was going to last. We didn't know if she was going to run when she first got there. Based on the stories we were hearing of what was happening in Indiana, we expected somebody to come into our house that was just completely a violent person, that was uncooperative, et cetera. And that's not at all what showed up with Queenie in our house. I mean, she still had her drinking problem when she first showed up, and there were some certain incidences that happened, but she really, we took the time to make sure that she got the care that she needed, make sure she had the medical plan that she needed, make sure that she had the therapy that she needed to go through, just because of all the trauma she's been through in her life. And just watching her grow and become this new human that she wasn't for the last, probably, I don't even know how long, but just mentally even, right? We're not talking about physically or mindset of that I'm a woman, not a man. It's just the fact that, holy shit, I actually have a lot of value that I can add to life, and I'm not living my best life. And watching her grow from this person that's climbing from the depths and becoming somebody that is just who she is today, just an amazing person.
So when you made that offer, at that point, where was your acceptance level? When she was in that spot in Indiana, were you guys still like, I don't know about this whole thing? Or at that point, were you like, fine, she's female?
At that point, we were fine. She's female.
Okay.
We opened our minds to it. We were basically we've been open to it. It's been more accepting of it as we've gotten older and learned more. And having her come in, we basically wanted to understand where she's at in her life and understand what do we need to help her with here as far as helping her move on and become the better person that she is today. And so from there, it was just, this is a blank slate. All we know is that she's got some trauma from her childhood, and we're going to just try and help her get through that and hopefully move on and become who she is today. I think that's like the third time I've said that now, but we really didn't know. We were like, okay, what's going to happen if she comes and moves in with us and decides to run? What if she just decides that she wants to go back to Las Vegas? We really had no clue what was going to happen, and it was a take it day by day, moment by moment, in the very beginning, to make sure that we were there for her, and at the same time making sure that we continued to set these boundaries, so that she wasn't doing more harm to herself.
Do you know or remember how long it was after she was with you before Dawn approached me about Queenie just doing anything with the show, which was interning, helping with the stupid store, anything? Do you know how long that was?
Oh, God, I'd probably say... So she came here in March of 2019, and so I would have to say it was probably 6 months. It was about the time that the cookbook started to go on sale again, and when you guys really started picking up, and Dawn needed help to manage the store. And I think that's when she asked you about having Queenie come in.
I think it was the brine.
The brine. Sorry, you're right. I think you're right. It was the brine
next year.
So
just a delineation between before the listeners read Pennis, because I wonder if you had a moment like this, because obviously I had none of the experience you did, other than what you had told me, what Dawn had told me. And when I met Queenie for the first time, I was like, of course she's a woman, which was an eye-opening. I remember coming home and telling Christina, it was like an epiphany. I was like, there's no questioning that this is not a flamboyant gay male. Mm-hmm. This is not whatever you envision that she's a woman.
Yeah.
In every way, the annoying ways for sure, like the and the loving maternal ways, and did you have that moment at some point? Or because it was so gradual for you, because you had that front row seat, not so much.
No, so when she came in, I was expecting her to be a woman, and based on everything that we had heard, and so really as soon as she got there, you're right. I mean, the signs just started showing right away, and I don't even remember what the first real my aha moment was of, oh my God, she is just exactly like her aunt in so many ways.
I'll say.
And so I don't exactly remember that, but I do know there was one point when we're sitting at breakfast and I'm sitting at the head of the table and they're sitting on the sides of me and they're getting into a conversation, not heated conversation, but just two women that are talking. And I can't, if I wanted to add something, I can't add anything in. And I literally said, I need to get up. My brain is going to explode if I don't. And I basically pushed my chair in and walked away, and they just started laughing because but that was probably the one moment for me where I'm just like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
So maybe that's the answer to the question I should have asked you much earlier when we were talking about what it's like being married to Dawn and being the spouse of the show, because people want to know, obviously, and Christine and I have talked about this publicly, and Dawn's talked about it. We are who we are on the air. Occasionally we're exaggerated for entertainment effect or whatever has to happen, but it's not fake. And so a lot of people do wonder, how the hell do you live with Dawn? And specifically to the long, and this is what's funny to me now. It's not unique to Dawn. Dawn's she's got this platform, and I think most men who have been with women, married or otherwise, for a long time can relate to it. So I think she becomes a target unfairly sometimes. Although, as her boss and as somebody who works with time and is kind of like edit, she can go on and 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 on. Maybe even more so than some women. Yeah. Or the average woman. Sorry. And so a lot of people, they playfully ask, how do you tolerate it? How do you do it? And what's your answer?
I don't know that I really would say that I tolerate it. I actually enjoy the conversations that we have.
Do you get a word in?
I do. Yeah. Yeah. Our conversations at home are really good.
Are there times though where you're like, stop, shut up. I got it. In your mind, you would never say shut up. I get it. But in your mind, you're like, oh my God, I got it. And maybe I'm projecting a little bit here.
No, but I mean, you're right. If from an exaggeration perspective, yes, there are those times where it's like, okay, you've already said that once. You've said it a different way. Now you've said it a third time. And in my head, but I listen to her and hear what she has to say and try and do my best job to make sure that I'm listening to every word that she says. I think that's a normal male trait, I guess, that I tend to follow, where I don't listen to every word she says. As a matter of fact, one of our latest conversations is she'll be telling me something, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's great. It's like she'll mention something about Tahoe Blue Vodka, and I'll say, oh, turkey brine? And so her natural response is to go, what? And so when I look at it after the fact, right, I just sit there and laugh and go, right. I can only imagine what women have to deal with us as men with some of the stuff that we do. And so, but no, I love our conversations that I have with her. You know, she's who she is on the air for the most part, really. You know, just the loving, caring, cries at a lot of stuff that are very sensitive and you know, it's all of it's, I would have to say the whole package is all part of what I love about her as well, right? And so
even in those moments where you might instinctively be annoyed, we'll just use that word, it's the whole package is what takes over. Yeah. Like girls cry at stuff that especially guys like you and I are like, huh? But there's a sweetness about it that you have to more than tolerate because it's part of the whole package that makes them so great.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that part of Dawn has come out so much on the show, and it's been great to watch her go from being the annoying bitch, which she was to a lot of people for a lot of years, to being this loving, wise, and oftentimes charismatically poignant figure in so many people's lives. Yeah. I mean, she's really grown into it, and it's been great to watch.
That's one of the things that for me, that's one of the things that blows me away about the show all the time is the number of people that write in with stories about how you guys have saved their lives. Yeah. And I think you guys just recently had somebody that written in and said, I was literally about to commit suicide. And I heard Dawn's voice say XYZ, whatever it was. And it's just like, when I see her at home, I'm like, oh my God. I said, yep. Do you understand the power of what you guys do? That is just absolutely incredible that you have that big of an impact that somebody changes their course of action based on what you guys have said on the show. And that's a moment where that person didn't even call in. That was just during a conversation on the show. That's not including everybody that you've actually helped live on the air as well. And so, I just her, and I think that one made her break down and cry on the air, which I don't blame her because that was a really, really great story from a just touching perspective. And so, but yeah, from talking, when we're on car rides, we both talk quite a bit. She sleeps quite a bit. It's not as bad as people would imagine that it is.
Going back one step, what makes her the best partner is that she does understand the power that we have, and but all of us take it so seriously. And then the road trip thing, I still think I think we're right on that. You want to really test a relationship, that's the way to go. Get in a car with somebody for hours and figure out that not only you can carry conversations, but also you can be totally quiet for hours, literally hours. Yeah. And there's no problem. Nobody's uncomfortable. Nobody's anxious. Maybe somebody's sleeping, hopefully not the driver. And everything's great.
I will say that my sense of humor. I have probably the worst sense of humor. I know what's funny, but I'm not always funny. But when I'm driving, I just start singing the wrong lyrics to songs or making up expressions and phrases, just stuff to keep me entertained while I'm driving as well. And Dawn jumps right in. And so her and I are then going back and forth, playing with each other. And to me, it just is like, this is so awesome. This is somebody that, it makes it easy to spend the rest of your life with somebody like that tolerates. There's a lot of people that would not tolerate some of the stuff that we did.
I can only imagine how unfunny some of that would be to me.
Oh yeah, no.
Other than from the goofy, that's sweet side, but knowing that, actually, I think you sell yourself short. You can be really funny, but you're right. You have a lot of misses. Yeah, which I appreciate that you own that.
I'm a volume person.
Well said. I can only imagine the two of you because Dawn is actually, that's another thing that's been so great to see in the last 5 years in particular. She's become many times, the funniest one on the show. And to see that finally come out in her and to see her so the one that comes to mind for me is when somebody wrote in a few weeks ago, very concerned about some aquarium that they had visited, and the letter writer wanted your help as a zookeeper, not understanding that he doesn't actually do that. We just can't tell you what he does.
Breaking news.
And Dawn, and I presented, and Dawn didn't know what was coming. They never know what's coming on the air. That's not shtick. Nobody knows what's happening. And I said to her, Dawn, I've got to read this letter. You can handle it however you want. And I read it, and she right away went into, zoos and aquariums, they're very competitive, and Gary would never play in that field. And I'm like, that is brilliant.
One of my favorite segments of the last month or so, for sure.
And especially, and what I really appreciate about that is, she had no idea it was coming. Yeah. And to be able to just do that, and it was so well done. And this is something we were talking about on one of the recent pROBcasts with Christina. It's the difference between what we do and what stand-up comedians do. And I love stand-up comedians. And in fact, when we're going to finish up the pROBcast with a little lightning round here, we're going to talk about stand-up comedians real quick. But I respect the hell out of them. But the idea that they spend weeks, if not months, writing and then just repeating what they do. And I'm not suggesting that people on the radio are good at what they do. They ain't. But I'm proud of what we do, because every day We're doing new stuff, creative stuff, and it's all on the fly.
100%, yeah.
The most prepared person is me, and I only know the premise going in. And to watch all 5 of us, especially with this current team, they're so talented. And we don't hit a home run every day, but man, we rarely miss a triple. And it's so good.
And if you do miss that trip, or if you do miss that home run, it's a single joke that was missed.
Yeah.
Right. It's not an entire show. It's not half a show that's missed. There is, and you're 100% right about that. That, like, I love the team that you have assembled right now, because every single person adds such a different element, and just the over the top ridiculousness for some of the things that Queenie says, right? You just like going, did you really just say that? And then with Kyle, man, Kyle is just like, I love Kyle.
And you went to high school with his dad.
I went to high school with his dad, and didn't figure that out until after I'd met Kyle, and he friended me on Facebook, and I saw his last name and went, that name looks really familiar. And so I checked with Kyle, and he's like, yeah, that's my dad. I'm like, okay. But Kyle, man, Kyle's, I don't know if it's naivety or his innocence, but some of the comments that he makes literally will just make me drop my head into my hands and just start laughing, because of the way he says it, or what he's intending to say is just so wrong, right? And
when I interviewed Kyle, and I had already kind of been prepped on him, and the background that I got on him was that he was a good kid. He was 29, I think, at the time. He was reliable, but it wasn't glowing in the sense of any potential to be an air talent. I interviewed him for maybe 30 minutes. I'm not sure. I'm sure he remembers. And I knew 10 minutes in, this guy belongs on the air. Like, I knew he just needed to be given the chance to be himself. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is exactly what you said. I saw the naivete, but there's this mischievousness.
Yes.
And I got that from getting him to tell me stories about his childhood and stuff. And I thought to myself, well, if I can take that naivete and that mischievousness and put it into a microphone, we really got somebody here. And it took him, I think, 2 to 3 months on the air before it really started to show. And now it just shows. And this is, and I've said on the air, I have absolutely no modesty at all about my ability to identify talent. And it is so great to see this guy, and Queenie, of course, who no one would give a chance to shine.
Yeah.
And I mean shine. Like they're taking over the show, which I'm fine with. I'll lead you to water, and then you guys drink.
Queenie 100% was born to talk.
Yes.
She has the exact same genes that her aunt does, and she is so talented. Her and her aunt both, like you said, Dawn's been very funny, much more funny now than she has in years past. But Queenie's just ability to throw something out there that is so off the wall. Even when she was living us, her and I would play little joking games in the house and just start cracking jokes. And Dawn just there were times where she's like, oh my God, are you guys ever going to stop? Because we're in that mode where the jokes are just so bad, but we just keep going. And
Queenie owns it.
She does.
She's like, whatever. I don't care if you don't understand my reference or you don't think I'm funny.
Yeah. I think that's probably one of my favorite parts, is the fact that she has the most obscure references. It's not just stuff from the 80s. I mean, she's going back to the 1880s with some of her references. And
she's all over the place. Some of it is so 2021 that I'm like, huh? What? Because I really try, right, to keep up and at least know. And I'm like, huh? What is that? But invariably when she does that, we'll go to a commercial break and we'll get a dozen emails from people saying, oh my God, Queenie, I totally got that. You're so funny. Whereas, the other 4 members of the show are like silent. We're like, okay, Rob, do something next, because we don't get that. But people are getting it. Yeah. And it's such a great chemistry. All right, so we got to do the speed round.
Okay.
We got to wrap this up.
Okay.
So we're going to go to the big one here.
Okay.
The one that I wanted you to try. This is it's a brand called Cavalan whiskey. Now, it's very specifically the Sherry Oak version.
Okay.
Because they've got another sherry. There's a sherry cask version, which I've had and is not as good.
Okay.
This one, again, our third friend on the drunken night had and said it might be the best whiskey he's ever had. I don't know if that's true, but it is so good that you had to try this before we ended this pROBcast with my speed round. I made notes for the speed round because I was like, all right, we got to do some things here with Gary. But first, you got to take a sip and tell me what you think. And be honest, like usual. Don't be nice.
I can definitely taste the oak more so in that. It's a little bit more dry. Like with the Macallan, the sherry oak and the Macallan was a little bit sweeter. So I definitely notice a difference between the two. But that is really smooth. I don't want to say it's not flavorless, obviously, because it tastes like you can definitely taste the flavors in there. But that is a really solid. That's a really solid whiskey.
Let it open over the ice, too.
Yeah.
All right. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Got some notes here.
Okay.
Best sitcom ever.
Seinfeld.
Not Cheers?
No. I mean,
Cheers in the running?
100%. Cheers has got to be number 2 in my book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
You know what? I'm going to say yes because of the fact that there is a Christmas tree. He says, ho,
wrong.
ho, ho.
That is wrong.
He is there for a Christmas party.
It's an action movie that's set at Christmas. You don't really believe this. Home Alone's not a Christmas movie either.
Sure it is.
Oh, my God.
Do all Christmas movies have to be sweet and have a wonderful life ending to them?
You can't. You can take any movie and place it at Christmas time. It doesn't become a Christmas movie.
So is Christmas Vacation a Christmas movie?
Of course it is. The entire thing is about Christmas. They start by getting a Christmas tree. They end by burning the Christmas tree down. They see the star. Die Hard is not about Christmas. It's about saving the world. Or L.A. I don't know. Okay. You're just wrong on that. Okay.
Fair.
Follow up. Best Die Hard movie.
I would have to say Live Free or Die Hard. Basically Die Hard 4.
But the close competitor is
number 3.
Yeah. Those are the two.
And I still love number 1. I'll watch number 1 anytime it's on. I would say number 5 is my least favorite. And then number 2 is my second least favorite. But yeah.
But you put Die Hard close enough to Die Hard 3 that it's still in the running.
100%.
Because to me, there's a big separation. I think 4 and 3 are just the best.
Those two are just absolutely amazing. But,
and I know we'll text each other.
Yeah.
This is a whole other stupid phenomenon we'll have to talk about. Why we watch shows that are on TV with commercials or that we have on DVR we own. Or I don't understand that.
Yeah. All right. Die Hard's on 520 in 10 minutes.
Right? Exactly. That's what we'll do. Especially during the pandemic. Although that made sense. It was like we needed something to do. Best quarterback of all time.
Joe Montana still.
Come on. Come on. Look, I love Joe Montana, but Tom Brady's won 7. I know Joe Montana never lost any.
That might be the whiskey talking more so than anything, but you're right. If I take it back, I would have to say that Tom Brady is the best.
And this kills me to say this.
Yeah.
Because I want to make the argument for Joe Montana. But I think this is a different question, which we texted about this recently. Best NFL player of all time.
Oh, man.
Because to me, I throw out Brady and Montana.
They're not even in my top 2 for best player of all time.
I go right away to Jerry Rice.
So I go Jerry Rice. Walter Payton is also very high on my list as well.
Jim Brown.
You definitely can't count him out. Yeah, I mean, between those 3 guys, I'm sure there's a few more we could add into there, but Joe Namath should never be anywhere near that list. He shouldn't even be near the best of the quarterbacks.
Who was even saying that? No.
The guy over there in the corner said it.
You ass. Okay, so I heard this. Oh, my God. Oh, driving back from Las Vegas, Christina tortured me for a second time with the Bill Burr podcast, whatever the fuck he calls it. This one is one he does with a partner. It's awful. I love Bill Burr. All deference to Bill Burr, but he should not be podcasting. And this was terrible. And fortunately, she turned it off after 12 minutes. But they had a great premise of a conversation, he and whoever he was on with. So we're going to do the Mount Rushmore of sports. So you got four only.
Okay.
We're not expanding Mount Rushmore.
Nope.
Okay. It's the Mount Rushmore of sports. The 4 greatest professional athletes. So you have to first start by deciding who's the best at each sport, and then whittling down who's the better of the best to go on Mount Rushmore. So they started with an interesting list. I'm doing this from memory, but I believe it was Jordan.
Yeah, he would be the first face on the mountain.
Which to me, that's a given.
Yeah.
The basketball one to me is not even a discussion.
No.
I get the Wilt and Bill Russell arguments. I do not get the LeBron argument at all. I'm sorry, but if you're just bouncing from dream team to dream team, you're not the best of all time. You're not even and Kobe was great, but it's Jordan.
Yeah,
okay,
100%.
So they had Jordan. They had Gretzky, which they argued about for hockey because I think Bobby Orr is arguably better.
Yeah.
They threw in Serena, which you can't discount.
Tennis is
I discount tennis as a sport.
Yeah.
But I mean, Mount Rushmore level. I mean, certainly Serena is like, oh my god. But
But how do you in that case then not count in like Rafael Nadal right now as well, right? Or Roger Federer, two guys that absolutely own their sports as well.
And so then they argued over Tiger versus Jack, which I mean, Jack's still the king.
Yeah.
And as much as we all want to see Tiger keep coming back, I don't know. And I don't know that they belong on Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
And they missed baseball entirely.
Oh, geez.
So Mount Rushmore of sports. So we agree on Jordan. He's first.
Yeah.
Okay. Baseball. Right? Because we're gonna do the big 4, aren't we?
100%. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, I wouldn't include tennis. I wouldn't include bowling. I wouldn't include golf even at this matter. I mean, Tiger's amazing. He completely changed the game and is truly what the PGA is all about now.
They literally changed every golf course.
100%. Yeah. And even the prize funds all changed. Everything was like $200,000 prize funds before Tiger joined in or for first place. And now that you can't find a tournament that pays under $1 million for first place anymore.
And we'll meet back here in 5 years because I'll still be doing this, and so will your wife.
Yeah.
We'll see where the game's at, where Tiger is, because if they don't find a new Tiger, they're screwed.
Sports in general, I'm going to go off topic here. Sports in general needs drama right now. I do not like the fact that everybody has to like everybody. We need fighting back in hockey. We need to see the real good pitcher batter duels in baseball, and not a guy getting thrown out because he threw inside when a guy's standing on top of the plate. Golf as well, you know. I know that
real drama. This DeChambeau Brooks Koepka thing.
No,
who cares?
No, but
you need a star too.
Yes,
a real star.
Like Jack and Arnie went at each other, right? And I don't know that they weren't friends off the course, and we started getting that with Phil and Tiger as well. Right. And then they became buddies at the end, which is, I think that's fair. You know, you can become friends with your enemies at some point later in life, but we need that. We need that in all of sports right now. It is just getting to be so boring, where you go and hug the guy from the other team for playing a great game when he just kicked your ass by 50 points. No,
that's that whole Little League thing, right? The good game thing. But we didn't say good game. We said, you know, go fuck your mother as we were high-fiving people. And I don't know where that's going to land.
Yeah.
But it has to change, hopefully, the way you said.
Yeah.
So if we put Jordan up from basketball, and we're going to do the big 4. We're going to do baseball, basketball, hockey, football.
Yep.
Right? That's Mount Rushmore.
100%. Yeah,
okay.
I agree.
So Jordan's there for basketball.
100%.
So football, we don't know. Maybe Jerry Rice.
But it would be.
It's not Tom Brady.
No,
it's not.
It's not a quarterback at all.
No,
it's not a defensive player.
It's Rice. I would say Jim Brown or Jerry Rice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Baseball, I almost want to go back to the old days, right? Just because
I absolutely want to go back
because
to the
the game was so different then, right? You got a guy like instantly you could go to Babe Ruth just based on the legend of the name,
right?
But you got to think about guys like Cy Young, who pitched over 800 decisions in his career. His record was like 511 and 343 or something. So it's just like you don't see a guy that's ever going to have 800 decisions in his career anymore. And that to me is just incredible, the fact that he pitched that much.
Do we compensate also for the times they played in, like Ted Williams, who was a spectacular player who had half his career taken away from him? Oh, by the war. He went to go serve the country. Because I always thought Ted Williams was easily one of the 5 best players in history.
Yeah.
But it gets stolen from him, kind of like Ben Hogan in golf. Well, sorry, but that's kind of how it works.
Yep.
But if it's, to me, baseball still does seem 100 years later like it's Babe Ruth.
Yeah. He's
especially now in the age of, and I always mispronounce this guy from the Angels, Shohei.
Oh yeah,
my God,
yeah,
this guy.
The guy plays both sides of the plate, pitcher and bat. Yeah.
He's right now, as we record this, leading the league in home runs. Mm-hmm. Oh, and he's a pitcher and a pretty goddamn good one too.
Yeah.
This is unreal. That's like Babe Ruth's legacy.
100%,
so to me, it seems like Babe Ruth.
Yeah, yeah. When you look at somebody that plays on both sides of the field, it's. Well, I guess actually everybody does in football and baseball, but somebody that pitches and can also hit is so rare. It feels like that. Yeah, I mean, Babe Ruth, he's part of the reason why the game is so big today as well.
And that's the other part that if you're actually going to do Mount Rushmore, do you also have to do influence on the game?
I think so.
Which is why, going back to football, I lean more on Jim Brown.
Yeah.
And Jordan is still clearly, I know I get the Wilt and Bill Russell thing, but Jordan is still, he's the guy that transformed the NBA into mainstream.
But yeah, the NBA is not where it is today because of Wilt and Bill Russell. It's where it is today because of Michael Jordan.
So if we go to the fourth sport, though, are we wrong, the fourth head, are we wrong to say it's hockey? Should it be Muhammad Ali? Should we just eliminate the hockey argument? Boxing's dead for now. I don't know if it'll come back, but God, how do you not put Muhammad Ali on Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, that's a great question.
This is why I host these shows.
Yes. Yeah. You asked questions I wasn't intending to answer today, and now I have to think.
That's why I didn't tell you ahead of time.
Jesus, man.
You can text me later. I won't tell anybody, but
No, I have a hard time putting boxing in the top because Muhammad Ali.
But it's not boxing. It's Mount Rushmore.
Of sports, okay, it is. I
don't know what Teddy Roosevelt's doing on Mount Rushmore, to be honest with you, but that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah.
We can do that on a different pROBcast.
Yeah, I like the idea of Ali, but I have a hard time leaving hockey out out of Mount Rushmore.
Would it be Gretzky or Orr?
It would probably
or Lemieux?
It would probably be Bobby Orr.
Yeah, good answer.
Yeah.
You redeemed yourself from that earlier mistake.
The guy played it without a face mask, for God's sakes.
Yeah, and Gretzky I thought was a puss.
Yeah,
but he had a hot daughter. Okay, last one. Best stand-up comedian. So you can do this 2 ways. You can do this now. You can do it all time. I've got answers for both.
Most people might not even know who my all-time favorite stand-up comedian is because he's so old.
How can he be that good then? It
was Sam Kinison. I absolutely loved Sam Kinison back in the 80s, and I just...
So Sam Kinison to me feels like the guy who never got the chance to be the best.
Yeah.
I loved Sam Kinison.
100%.
And the fact that he died long before the peak of his career was tragic to comedy. But because of that, I can't put him as the best of all time.
His writing was so amazing, though.
And his presentation.
Yeah.
I don't care he screamed. See, Kevin Hart bothers me when he screams.
Yeah.
Sam Kinison never did.
Nope.
And it's not a racial thing. It's a presentation thing.
Yeah. And I think that most people are not going to agree with Sam Kinison in this day and age, at least, because of how controversial his material was even way back then.
That's what made it so great.
Right? It was, yeah.
See, so all time I have been stuck on and I stick with George Carlin. Too smart, too much staying power too. Right? The stuff that he was doing in the early 90s that still applies now, 30 years later.
Yeah.
20, 30 years, whatever. Especially like about global warming, environmentalism. It's staggering how intelligent that was.
Oh, no, I completely agree with you on that as well. And Carlin is definitely very, very high on my list as well. And, I think I found Sam Kinison before I found Carlin. And so I think that's probably why Kennison is higher on my list, as he was the one that really got me more to want to find out more about stand-up comedy.
Okay, so if we stay old school before we get current, who else is on that list? See, I was a little late to the party on, say, guys like Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor is very high on my list.
He's great.
I still love his material to this day. Old material, obviously.
Yeah, and you can't. I don't think you can qualify guys like Johnny Carson as a stand-up comedian. He was a different genre, right?
Totally different, yeah.
Or not genre, but a different field. So if you stay old school guys, the list starts to trim if you really get critical with it. So who else is there with Kennison and Carlin?
I honestly,
do we discuss Bill Cosby? I never really liked Bill Cosby as a comedian.
I found his comedy to be family friendly and fun.
Yeah.
He sold what he needed to do to become famous, which in comedy you have to have family friendly material.
Yeah.
I did see him live in concert once back in the 80s. He was performing actually at the State Fair one year.
In Sacramento?
Yeah. Yeah. That was back when he was doing all of his, it was right when he'd written his jokes about the dentist. And
the 230.
Yeah. Yeah. And trying to talk with your mouth all numbed up.
RAD.
Yeah. RAD. Yeah. So,
Google it.
So I did see him. I really like, from an older school perspective as well, I will still watch Eddie Murphy Raw on TV.
Okay. Absolutely.
And so,
and Robin Williams,
100%.
who I saw live in San Francisco with my dad. Eddie Murphy, Robin Williams, those are two great ones to throw in there for sure. Old school.
And I saw Chris Rock downtown Sacramento at Punchline, which was just amazing. Really still like Chris Rock's comedy. I think he's pretty relevant. Yeah,
he gets a little lost in the shuffle for me. He was so great in the 90s. Mm-hmm. He's not great now, but it seems like he went through some type of transition that I'm still going through with him or something. I don't know how to explain that. But that's a great transition to best working modern day comedians, which I've got my 3. Well, actually, I've got my 4 because the 4th is so controversial. So in no particular order, that's not true at all. My number 1 is Ricky Gervais.
Okay, yep.
And then the other 3 are like tied. Chappelle, Joe Rogan, and Louis C.K. Okay. And I know Louis C.K. is like, oh my God, you can't say that. We're going to cancel you kind of thing. But even his attempt at a comeback, which has not worked, I mean, he has his followers, and I'm one of them online, and he's doing the comedy is still so great.
Yeah.
And had he not had those terrible indiscretions and everything, I thought he was set out to be like the next version of, maybe not George Carlin, but he had 30 more years of dominating.
Yeah.
But those are the first 4 that come to my mind.
Yeah, I would 100% agree on Chappelle. I do like Joe Rogan more as he's getting into his podcast more. To me, I don't always remember him as being a comedian. He's been that guy that's just hosted different shows, et cetera, right? Fear Factor. And then he went right into the UFC, right? And
I like him most as a stand-up comedian.
Okay.
And second, as the UFC guy, because my wife and I watched that. I don't really like his podcasts.
Yeah, I haven't listened to his podcasts at all.
The ones I've heard, I'm like, okay.
There's very few podcasts I have any interest in, quite honestly.
As we sit here and do a podcast.
Yeah. It's funny, actually.
I get it.
So current working, I definitely like him. I'm really surprised you didn't say Bill Burr, because I know you're a big Bill Burr guy.
He'd be 5th. For sure. I do like Bill Burr. Absolutely. He would be in the 5 if I wasn't ranking them. What Louis C.K. just literally occurred to me. I think if I had a list of working comedians, since I have tickets to go see Bill Burr in November, obviously he's on the list.
Yeah.
And he's never disappointed. And and you know what's so friggin' annoying about his podcast is that Bill Burr is one of the few that is so great improvising on stage and dealing with hecklers.
Yeah.
Which reminds me of another one that he just doesn't quite make the top 5 for me, which is Jim Jeffries.
Yeah, for him, Jim Jeffries, I like probably catch flack for this, but I also like Jim Gaffigan as well.
Yeah, no, Gaffigan does some good stuff.
Yeah, and for me, it's a lot of his presentation that is so funny. His jokes are actually really funny too. But
he has some sort of like simultaneous self-deprecating yet arrogant style,
right?
That I've never been able to master at all.
Yeah,
and Kevin Hart, a couple of Kevin Hart stand-up specials are two of my favorite specials of all time, but I still don't quite qualify him for some reason as that. I guess maybe I put him in that he's more of something else, like a movie star.
That's my whole understanding as well, or that's how I feel about him as well. Is that for me, he is always been a movie star, and now he's trying to. And if he did comedy before, and then went into movies, but I never learned of him as a comedian beforehand, then that's on me. But for me, my interpretation of him is he is a movie star first, and then whatever he does second. And so I don't even think I've seen any of his stand-up comedy, and I would never have even considered him for a stand-up piece.
So you haven't seen like even his Netflix stuff?
Not that I can remember. No.
So what's interesting, this just occurred to me, is we've gone through this 5-minute conversation, and neither one of us has mentioned somebody that I've seen 4 times, and I would pay any amount of money to see again. And I know you love him.
Paula Poundstone?
No, but so close. Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh, yeah.
Who I think is just brilliant.
I would instantly pay money to see him again as well.
Have you seen him live?
Have not seen him live yet.
Oh, my God. And he's so good.
Yeah.
And I know we're both a fan of the show, but he's so good live. I mean, he's a different type, obviously. I think I've heard him use 2 curse words in 4 or 5, because I can't remember live shows that I've seen him. But I have never had my mouth hurt more. I've had it hurt as much from laughing so hard, and it's been at the ones we've already mentioned, Gervais and Rogan, but he's so funny. But we didn't put him in the first group or the second group.
No, you know what? And maybe it's because of, for me, it might be because of his last special that he did that he recorded. Was that during or before the pandemic? I don't remember.
I remember it came out during the pandemic.
Yeah, the one that came out during the pandemic. Yeah. And I'm watching it and I'm going, oh, well, you used that joke in the opening of one of your Seinfeld episodes, right?
Oh, yeah.
And for me, I understand that to be a great comedian, you need to repeat your material every single night. But if you're doing a second tour coming out again, bring new material. And I understand how hard it is to do that. It's hard for somebody just to perfect 5 minutes of material, let alone a full hour of material. But for me, I thought that was the part where probably he fell a little bit farther on my list, is because of the fact that he's recycling his jokes, which is fine, because a lot of the new people younger people have never heard of him, heard the jokes before. But like I said, I'm like looking at them, like going, yeah, you use that as one of your opening jokes in one of your Seinfeld episodes, right? And so I just, as much as I love stand-up comedy, I get to a point where I just can't watch the same comedy over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, and Rogan's going to be in Sacramento in September, and we have tickets to go. And I'm curious to see, because it's the same tour name that he was using before the pandemic.
Oh.
And if he dares to show up with the same material, like he didn't spend the last year and a half actually writing new material, that's going to do the same effect to me. And I was talking to somebody recently about Seinfeld who was saying, God, I really hope that he doesn't, maybe this was on the air. We were talking about it, that he doesn't like fade off slowly into the distance in a painful way. Mm-hmm. And my prediction, he will.
Yeah.
He won't be Don Rickles, who right up until the day he left us was Don Rickles and hysterical. I can see the potential decline in Seinfeld, which I don't want to watch.
Well, to me, Don Rickles is always more of an improv comedian as well. He could respond to any situation very quickly. He was the best to me at handling hecklers as well. And I don't see Seinfeld being that guy, though. I really don't see him being the guy that can do comedy into his 80s and be relevant all the way up until then.
And I'm wondering about too the future of stand-up comedy, because so many of them from, let's see, Seinfeld, Kevin Hart, Chris Rock, though I know those three for sure, have come out and said we can't do comedy anymore. Because everybody's canceling everybody and everybody's offended. And so what the hell is comedy actually going to look like moving forward? And I don't know. I'm not in. I mean, there's so many out there. Netflix and everything. You can't watch all of them. It's like I don't know who's going to be the next person that actually comes out and does real comedy.
It's gonna happen. There's gonna be that break, right? The pressure's getting too tight. Something's gonna break, and somebody is going to absolutely break through with some very good comedy that's probably going to offend a lot of people, and we're probably going to get back to that point. Well, you're just going to have to learn to deal with it.
And so does that bring us all the way back to that's what's going to happen with the country? The pendulum is going to swing back? Are we, as we continue to move, because so many people are worried about where we're headed, are we going to hit that breaking point and we're going to swing back and go, yeah, no, we're done being this woke. There's a level of wokeness that's great, but we're done being this politically correct, this sensitive, this cancel-y, etc.
Yeah, I honestly think so. And it's getting close to that point, in my opinion, because of the fact that when somebody like Joy Behar, who is so far to the right, so far to the left, is getting blasted for telling a joke on her show about the guy from the Raiders that just came out.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, wait, she's on your side, but you guys are completely blasting her now for making a joke about something that, I mean, it wasn't a funny joke in the first place. No. That's what you should have been more offended about.
And what was it? Do you remember what the joke? So this guy from the Raiders came out. He's the first active NFL player to be gay. And her joke was something about him, the way he dresses or decorates, or some gay stereotype, right?
It was about tight ends in the end zone.
Oh, God, that's right. It was even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're right. So that's not funny.
It was like an entry-level joke, quite honestly.
Yeah, but by that group's standards, that is completely unallowable. Mm-hmm. And yet she said it. And so it raises all sorts of questions about hypocrisy and what's going to be tolerated.
And we're seeing it left, right, and center happening now as well, where, the people that are trying to set the rules are breaking the rules, and now they're getting in trouble, but they don't want to get in trouble because they're such a good person. But no, you're not really a good person, and it is going to break. I don't know if the pendulum's going to swing so much as if it's going to just break and fall, and then we all need to figure out how do we reset it back to the middle.
Yeah, well, we've talked on the air for a couple of years now about this jersey wearing thing of, oh, so you're a Republican, I agree with you, or you're a Democrat, I hate you. This is not sustainable. No,
and judging people on a single topic is also completely unacceptable as well.
Right. Well, and again, COVID, right? If you wear a mask, you're a liberal Democrat. If you don't, you voted for Trump, which all of that's fucking ridiculous.
Right.
None of that makes any sense.
None of it.
But that is the dogma,
and that is that's the far end of the absolute absurdity of where it's going right now as well, right? Abortion used to be a topic where it's obviously a very sensitive topic, and a lot of people don't talk about it. But abortion's one of those where if you are for abortion, you're a liberal. If you're against abortion, you're a Christian. You're a Republican, right?
And also a wacko right-wing Christian,
and a wacko right-wing Christian. But now we're getting to the point where it's ridiculous, stupid things like wearing a mask. It's like, come on. We can do better than this as people.
And you still believe we will?
I think we will, yeah.
So that's an optimistic note to end on, since you're an optimistic person, and I'm not, so that's cool. That's a good place. And thank you for doing this.
I disagree with you on that.
I knew you would. How? By the way, so you got to try the Cavalan one more time. Now it's been on ice, and I still think it's so good.
Yeah, that is very easy drinking. That is amazing.
Which I did bring out. We didn't get to it because we have to be somewhat restrained. But I did bring out the $500 bottle of Michter's, which we bought because of Billions, and which has only been drunk that night with you and our other friend, and still has the broken cork in it.
That was my fault.
Was that your fault?
That was my fault. I went to get some, and somehow the cork broke off.
I was wondering how that happened. Okay, so we have We've aged it with a broken cork.
So that was only drank that night. We drank quite a bit of that, actually.
I have never touched it. That's
Wow.
right. Yes, so the three of us drank half a bottle.
Okay.
Which would explain how milk wound up in your Michter's that night.
And that was late in the evening, too. So.
Yes. No, that came out at the end
Yeah.
for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
So we'll have to have him back and maybe finish off the bottle
and
start over again. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
All right. Next time, bye.
Bye.
The RAD pROBcast. Did you enjoy this episode of the RAD pROBcast? Send an email to rad@radradio.com. A new episode of the pROBcast premieres anytime Rob feels like doing one.